Hello and welcome to the Irish Hunting Podcast, the no bullshit podcast for the outdoor enthusiasts. If you're into hunting, fishing, fine wines and even finer foods, you've come to the right place. So pull up a chair.
Welcome back to this week's episode number 88. This episode was recorded on a recent hunting trip to Norfolk in the south of England. I sit down with Robert Tracy as we enjoy the last few dying embers of the last day in southern England. We chat about the elusive Muntjac, the majestic little Chinese water deer, calibres, rifles, hunting guides, what we do differently in our next trip and what we do again. Will we go to the south of England or further afield? Hopefully we'll answer some of them questions and help you along the way if you're thinking of doing the same. Enjoy, folks. Jesus yourself. We're back again, drinking and talking about hunting, man. How are you?
All good. Really enjoyed that.
That was savage, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We'll start probably at the start where we landed. Who, because I can't remember, with the amount of things I'm after shooting. Who got the first the first shot?
You did.
I
got
did.
the first.
I did. That's right, Robert.
But there was only about 20 minutes of daylight left, and in fairness to Tom, brought
Put it straight on.
And I don't know how they pick up the deer with their naked eyes that quick.
I think that's what we said when we were just literally driving down like a gravelly lane. And within what I'd say we weren't in Jeep 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, there's a Chinese water deer," and three of us were looking out the Jeep, and not. He stopped, slowed down, and I still couldn't see it.
No. Now myself and Jan hung back, and you went forward.
Yeah.
To have a look, and I knew by you still couldn't see it. They're that well camouflaged.
Yeah, they were just perfect colour for the hedge line. Of course, the trees are bare just this time of the year, so they kind of literally blend in. But in fairness to Tom, he spotted that, and we got out, got set up in the sticks, and I think it was only 70, 80 metres away, I think.
Yeah.
About all, if even. And originally when we set up, of course, your new rifle, new scope, fixed scope, no zoom, so
Because we didn't bring our own rifles.
We didn't bring our own rifles in this one. And so you're trying to configure all that. As everyone knows, I'm a little bit OCD, so that was a little bit of a foosron to get it up and of course it was sticks, not tripod and so on.
Has that converted you to sticks?
I think as the story goes on, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Because I think I said it to Tom when I started first, obviously shooting deer, you've so many things to be considering. You've the shooting the deer in the right place. You have your own rifle skills. You have to try and get on the scope. Of course, my old gun, there was no adjustable cheek piece, and it was and the scope probably wasn't, and then these sticks, you had to fucking open them up and level them out, and oh Jesus, and I was putting them backwards, so there was so many things to be worried about,
Yeah.
But because of all that is nearly gone, then you just sticks. So they're rock steady.
Yeah. But you pulled off a lovely shot.
Yeah, it was. He was kind of face on and looking at me, and I was just waiting for him just to go broadside. And there was a lovely little backstop to the right hand side of it, because he was on there was a hedge line, but it was kind of like a bank leading up to the hedge line, so we're shooting directly into the bank, which was ideal. And we're shooting into a hill on the other side, so it was grand. And yourself, just dropped instantly. So
there's some talk about the size of them compared to a Sika even.
they're in the scope. They look like, oh, this is like a, you'd say to yourself, it's a female Sika.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
But then you walk up to it and it's like a handbag.
It's like a big Springer Spaniel. That's what it's like.
A big, yeah. And I was over the moon, man, because I wasn't, as we all know, I kind of do the drama thing and leave it till the last minute and all. So I didn't care if this had baby teeth, man, you know?
Yeah.
Which it did, but I was delighted to get off the mark early, and that was
And I could see in Tom, he was delighted for you.
That's what I like. We're going to talk about these guys in more detail as we go on, but I have to say, they could not have been nicer.
A sound bunch of lads. All three of them. The three that we dealt with. So Tom, Ben, and Chris. Even down to small things like when we got to the house, they had already put in milk, small tea bags, butter, bread, fucking rasher, like enough to get you. I wasn't expecting any of that.
No.
And no, really nice bunch of lads.
And like that, to the point where there was an issue, not an issue today, but I got a kind of a not so nice message about the guides on Facebook, and I said, you won't talk about my Tom like that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You get kind of defensive.
Yeah.
Because like that, you could see there's people that he's grown up with, not necessarily deer guiding, which is probably only the last couple of years deer guiding, that part of his business. But he's shot deer most of his life, and he's guided in terms of the driven shoots. So you can see that he's that way. He's professional. He doesn't. He wants to see you getting on your deer.
Yeah.
He wants to see you, and there's enjoyment, because I know you can see, or we've heard stories about different guides and so on, where there's that kind of like it doesn't really matter. Obviously, you know what I mean. They don't. And hunting, we weren't expecting to get on. We
weren't even expecting to hunt that night because it was that late before we got in, so we only had about 40 minutes of light.
That's about it, yeah.
And he was good enough to bring us out for that 40 minutes. And you, of all people, got off the mark
of
first.
All people. Well, I did offer. Tom said, "Who wants to shoot, lads?"
Straight out of the car with the rifle. Anthony went.
No, I did not. I said, "Which one?" And the two of you both said, "No, you." So I was.
Oh, okay.
Now, in fairness, I didn't argue too long. I literally had my hand on the rifle just as we were getting out as you were saying it. But it was nice to get off the mark and get the first. Obviously, what's that? Is that species wise now? That's me Sika fallow red, and me Chinese.
Fallow red Chinese.
And me Muntjac. So I have 5.
You've got 5
of the big 6.
You're just mixing the row, obviously.
The row. Now, obviously, I don't have a nice fallow head, but that'll follow soon-ish, hopefully.
So then from there we moved on to the marshes for really the last light.
The last light, yeah.
But to no avail, we didn't get in.
No.
So then we went on the bear.
As we swore we wouldn't do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And poor Yanis.
We killed poor Jan. I remember him saying, we went to a lovely pub for a nice bit of grub, isn't that right?
Yeah.
And we had a couple of pints there, then back to the accommodation, top notch.
Top notch. How would you describe it? Like a bungalow in the centre of basically a campsite.
Yeah.
On an estate ground. So there's pheasants, wildlife all over the place.
Everywhere.
And that particular bungalow slept 1, 2, 3, 4 rooms. There was 1 master room and 3 double rooms. So
you could sleep comfortably. You sleep 6, 7 people there.
Easy.
Yeah, no issue. And if no issue sharing, and the couple of bathrooms, lovely kitchen, dining room, television in the rooms. You couldn't have, even to the point where we got in, the heating was on. Just stuff like that,
Yeah. And what's handy is if you didn't want to leave there at all, there's a restaurant and bar on site.
On site, yeah. So now if you're mongrels like us, then when that shuts is when it presents a problem. So we stopped actually in a shop on the way back. Tom brought us down to the place for a bit of grub, drove us to the supermarket. We stocked up with, I'd say he was looking at us like wine, we're
red
having
wine.
a heap of pints with dinner and a curry, and then go on to red wine for the night. And poor old Jan then.
He wasn't well.
No, he wasn't.
He wasn't well. No, but he didn't really drink then for the rest of the trip.
Yeah, we broke him on the first night. But look, we'll bring him around. It's all about the training, you know.
Then the next morning, what time did we get up at? I was up anyway for 4.
Up
just
at 4.
to make sure I was ready.
Yeah, I think I was up at 10 past. I heard you getting up, and then I got up shortly thereafter.
Yeah, but I think one of us was supposed to meet at 5:45 or 5.
4:45, and I did one after
Yeah.
5.
And what I liked about the lads, if they gave you a time, they were there earlier.
Yeah.
There was no such thing as waiting around. They were really professional.
To the point where, you know the way I'm a stickler for time. And
Yeah.
I was kind of like, waltzing around getting the coffee, and poor old Leanne, I remember him, like, you could hear the thud coming down the stairs. He was finding it hard to lift the feet at that stage. The head was hanging. And he was going off with Chris, was it? No,
No,
you
I went with Chris. That was the first morning I met Chris.
Yes, so you went across, I think, to what the guys called the gravel pit, is it over that area, was it? No?
I don't know. I was a little bit seedy myself, if
Yeah.
I'm telling the truth. I just sat in the car and Chris drove me.
Was it the same place that Yanis shot his?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's over towards their pit, I think. There's a kind of a divot in the ground there,
Yeah.
so that's about a 35 minute spin across, I think.
Yeah.
And then myself and Yanis were taken out. I went with Tom. Yanis went with Ben. And we hunted 2 estates, not too far away. Mine was about 15 minutes away. I think Yanis was closer. He was on similar to where Ben is shooting there.
Did you see much that day?
On the first morning, yeah, so we went up. Again, to describe the land, I suppose it's a lot of it's cropland, isn't it?
Yeah.
And holds heavy game would be the only way of fucking describing it.
That's one thing that really struck me, right? From the time we came out of Stansted, got the rental car and started the drive, the quantity of game compared to Ireland,
It was
like,
off the charts.
it's hard to describe. There was deer both in the fields and also dead the side of the road,
Yeah,
all along that N11, as well as pheasants.
and pheasants. We were there, like,
everywhere.
thinking about picking up pheasants off. Look at the tail of that fella as we're driving the motorway, and with that, I think it was probably, we didn't cop our first deer at Muntjac, I think, until about probably halfway down. Would that be fair?
Yeah, that's right.
And then once we start spotting them, then
Yeah,
it was hard to keep your eyes on the road. They
I
were
got all
just
sorts of excited.
And as we got closer, it was just the numbers were increasing, So when you're out on the stalks, like, the biggest thing is you're tripping over partridge and pheasant, like they're just getting up in front of you everywhere.
Yeah.
So that can throw you a little bit, because we're not used to that kind of game over here. But we went into the first field, and there was a Chinese water deer grazing up to the left on the bank. But again, he was just over, there's kind of like a hill up to it, but he was kind of mooching around the top of that hill, so it wasn't a safe shot. So Tom said, look, we'll try and work the wind a little bit and get around him to the right hand side and come in from the far side where we were shooting back into a hill, And we were making our way back up on the right hand side, but like that, it's crop, and with that, there's partridge getting up, so you're kind of alerting him. So he kind of bounced off into the next field, and there was another Muntjac up into the right hand side, but again, he was heading towards where there was kind of more of a built up area. There was a couple of houses back up that side, so we said there was no way we were going to get close to him with the wind and stuff. So we decided to see, could we get back out to after the Chinese. There was a bridge over a railway. It's mad, like, because the railways cut through like huge agricultural land, and there's these big bridges, like agricultural bridges, that you can get from one to another. And when we went across, I think I have a video of it there actually. We think it was the same Chinese, was on the right hand side, in near the hedge, right in near the hedge. So I got up on the sticks, but again he was going away from me, so I could see his backside. Tom had checked just literally as we walked in with the binos, and he said, yeah, it's a male. So I was up in the sticks for 3 or 4 minutes, but he was kind of mooching away from me, but didn't give me a shot broadside. So literally last second, he was working his way towards the hedge, Like, it was only about 2 meters between him and the hedge anyway, and then just skipped into the hedge. So there wasn't an ethical shot available, so we didn't take it. But Tom told me afterwards that looked like a gold medal. Yeah, he had a big set of chompers on him. How'd your first morning go?
Good and bad. So the first place I went to, it was just breaking first light, and Chris brought me in. We spotted a Muntjac buck. Now, this is completely my fault. And for anyone who's going on a guided hunt, always check the kit and equipment before you actually lift it for the first time to shoot, because what had happened was the Muntjac was in front of me. I picked up the rifle. I put it on the sticks, looked through the scope, and I couldn't see anything. So I thought, oh, bollocks. Oh, sorry. Oh, no. This thing is fully zoomed in. So I twisted the zoom the opposite direction, but it was actually zooming in more. The scope was set up in a way that I actually had to pull my head back.
Yeah.
So by the time I figured all that out, the Muntjac had, as you know, they keep moving.
They'd never stop.
So that was gone. I'm sure Chris was looking at me going, what is this lad at?
Yeah.
So that was my opportunity at a Muntjac, a nice Muntjac. Missed. But then he brought me to another spot, and that's where it started to get better. So we stalked in. There was a load of Chinese water there. I'd say I seen in the space of 3 fields maybe 70, not 17, but a lot of females. And he asked, do you want to shoot females, or are you after a buck? I'm after a buck. So Chris, in fairness, he was very good. He took his time. Because I didn't know what I was looking for with the teeth. I couldn't actually make it out, but he went through, that's a female. And he was like the third field in, he got excited. So I knew, oh, this is nice.
Yeah.
And he goes, that one there, that's a nice one. So I picked up the sticks really quickly, shot, dropped on the spot. Then we went over, and I seen the tusk on him.
Yeah, this is some set of tusks. Man.
Yeah, and Chris goes, oh, that's a gold medal. I was like, oh, beautiful. But then he took it back with his next sentence. Now, let's flip him over and see if he has a second tooth.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, oh, I actually said it out loud. Is that a real thing? Do they fall out? So there's lots that we don't know. So they break, they fall out when they're fighting in the rut. Thankfully, it had its second tusk, and I got a gold medal.
And that is a nice way to get your first Chinese water there, straight in on the top. In fairness, you were shooting the treble 250.
250.
Yeah.
Yeah, and zero recoil, very quiet, and it's enough power to drop them on the spot.
Yeah. That's a very good point we were saying there about the rifle. Again, similar to, not similar to mine. Again, probably Tom's rifle was closer to my own setup, if that makes sense. You know, the scope position and etc. I had probably the same issue when I was shooting with Chris in terms of the 250. Just the scope of where it was set up, it takes you that extra couple of. His cheek is probably just that little bit. You know what I mean? So it's,
that's his setup. That's how he
exactly.
Like that. I shot Tom's rifle as well, and I could shoot that.
Perfect, yes.
And there's no fiddling because it's fixed powered.
Yeah.
I think it's a Smith & Bender.
It's a nice glass in that.
Really nice.
Yeah, really nice. So you don't have to worry about, whereas there's just a few, and that's no reflection on Chris, and that's what I'm saying.
That's what he said, it's my fault.
You could get the opposite. You could get somebody else sitting on Tom's rifle and say, here man, this is way too high or way too low for me. I need that cheek piece in a different position. So, but like that, at least when you pull up to your cheek for the first time, before you get out, then you know.
But you know you're trying to be nice and polite, and you don't want to go, here, give us that rifle. Let me have a nose at this. So
we'll get more comfortable.
These
old trips will make you more experienced as we go. So we'll. So that was a nice morning.
That was a really good morning. I forget what Jan got that morning.
Jan drew a blank that morning.
That's right.
Yeah,
he did. Yeah,
he drew a blank that morning. I think again they seen a couple, but like that, he was on Munties I think in the first morning, and they don't stop.
No, especially the males.
Yeah, I was saying they remind me something half between a fox and a wild boar, if that makes sense, because their little trot kind of reminds me of where the boar to be scooting, you know what I mean? The little short legs, and they're always snaking and weaving. Do you know what I mean? So they're never they'll stop and just take a munch, but they're nearly eating as they're going.
Yeah, that's the fox side of it.
Yeah.
I didn't realise about their tusks. The little teeth on them.
And they are razor.
Razor sharp.
Razor.
To the point, Ben showed us pictures of when he was caught. Did you see them pictures?
He did. I didn't see them, but I heard the story,
Yeah. Caught him in the back of the leg. He showed me the picture in the hospital, and then he showed me the scar. You would not think that that animal could do that.
So to put it in perspective for anyone who hasn't, like, they're no more than 2 foot high.
Yeah.
They get up to a maximum, I think, of 18 to 20 kilos, in around that.
Yeah.
So, like, you're talking about, like, you know, your Ryanair suitcase size. You know what I'm saying? Just carry on.
We have to have a proper right.
Yeah, we will. We'll have that. Yeah, one particular lad. But yeah, that's the size of them. So you're kind of, when I heard that story, and you guys seen the damage.
But apparently, when dogs go near them, they go for the dogs. They can damage dogs as well.
And what did the lad say? The litter, 6 or 7 or 8, I think. A litter. No, they breed 3 times a year.
Three times a year.
They can breed up to 3 times a year.
The Chinese that have a
huge litter. Yeah, I think 11 is the recorded max, or the most recorded down there.
I heard 11. I heard 18.
Yeah,
so I don't.
I think
it's huge.
I think I could have said 18.
Okay,
but I think
it's
I'm mistaken. I think it's 11 is the record down there.
And then the survival rate is low, though.
Is low enough, yeah, because I think they're vulnerable to guys from the sky and vermin and stuff. But they're like, when they give birth
like a hare,
yeah, dotted around. So they'll have one young in a tuft here, they'll have another young, and they actually, that's the thing I noticed about them. They act like a hare. You know, they love that kind of. They'll be always, not always, but predominantly where I seen them, they're always on the kind of sunny side of the hill. You know, they're like lying out and basking in a bit of sunshine.
But they disappear real quick now if there's a cold breeze.
They are quick, man.
Yeah,
they are quick. They don't give you, once they get up, once they start, you ain't getting them. They don't stop. And Tom said as well, and I seen this in action. When they start to move, they'll move the next herd in the next field, you know.
Yeah.
And we've seen that on one of the hunts where stalks where we had gone in, and just literally one of them, they literally get up like a pheasant out of a tuft of grass that you wouldn't think would be holding. This thing stands up, and all he sees is backside. And with that, you're watching as he's running towards the next field, and there's 2 or 3 after just popping up. And so it's like an alert. So that was the first day.
That was the first morning.
The first morning, sorry. Then back to breakfast. Now, that was some breakfast.
Yeah. I don't know what. I think he asked for a double of the normal breakfast because it was some size. I didn't really need to eat that evening. I just ate because everyone else was eating.
Yeah. So we said we'd have a full English, and then Tom said, "Here, these lads like a bit of grub. Double that up there, you know." And this thing came out. Now, it was gorgeous. I couldn't even finish mine.
And then straight to bed into a food coma.
Yeah, you boys went to, well, poor Leanne, I think, was nearly asleep in the Jeep on the way back. He went up and slept like I'd say his head didn't hit the pillow when he was asleep.
Yeah.
And usually followed suit. And I flew it around and watched a bit of TV. I think I dozed for a few minutes, and I had a shower and stuff. And then we were back out again the boys called over about 3 o'clock. We have a bit of a chat and a cup of coffee and that before we head back out.
Yeah, for the last light shoot. I don't think I shot anything that night.
And neither did I. No. Where did I go that night? Now, we went back out again to the same spot where we seen that, trying to get that gold.
Okay.
And again, up the far end of the field, but no shot presenting. So we went back down to a different field that was probably 2 or 3. When I say fields, now there could be a couple of 100 acres in the field, you know.
But that's another difference that I noticed. The farms, you could be talking 1,000-acre farms, all of them.
Yeah.
Where we've much smaller plots.
Ours are broken up. Yeah. And it's set up for agriculture down there where, like, literally there's no fences on the roads. You know, there's literally a tram line for a tractor to come off the road at any point. So you've all these. It reminds me similar enough to Hungary in some ways.
Yeah,
you know, that kind
landscape.
Yeah. Obviously different crops and stuff and different climate, but in that setup. And I think we went over, actually, that field we checked, came back out, and we went actually on the road, went over the railway bridge, and just into the left-hand side, big red stag galloping through the field. heading for the railway.
Yeah, and they have reds,
Row.
obviously Chinese, Muntjac. They have fallow,
Yeah.
right, that they can put you on. Like that pheasant, partridge, geese,
Duck.
duck, they could put you on anything there.
And that's the I suppose the surprising thing for us from coming from, like, at one point, not that I was, but I said to Tom, like, I do a bit of pheasant rearing myself. Do you hatch yourselves, right? So I thought, like, we'll get a bit of, and he said, oh yeah, no, we do, I said, what size is your incubator? And he says, I think he said 40 or 50. I said, all right, yeah, no, we've an 80 or something like that. I think, and he's kind of, really, yeah. And I said, yeah. I said, but sometimes now, like last year, we had a bit of bother. So I was going on, he was talking about 40 or 50,000 at a time they can hatch.
Yeah.
Because
they laughed at me because they said, and how many birds would be released? And I said, well, in a go gun club, like you're talking 350, 400 birds. And he was like, 100? Oh no, we raise like 60,000 here.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, yeah.
So that kind of put me, I was sitting back down the seat fairly quick.
But I don't want to cut across the knowledge that they have about rearing.
Oh man.
Because I was talking about the partridge being a little bit weaker because I shoot up the north. And I do see what they're feeding them, ground feed. And Ben was telling me, no, that only does some amount of the sickness. You have to have water feed like that, and that catches the majority of it.
Yeah.
And then he was telling me about a gamekeeper that mixes both into a cement mixer. And he goes, that actually works. He's a very good gamekeeper.
There you go.
Like small little things.
And I think for the point being here, right, is that if you never stop learning here, right? But
no.
If you were a gamekeeper over here, or like myself coming back now, I'm going to be telling some of the lads in our club.
Yeah.
6 weeks old, they start to release their pheasants, and they have, when I say a phenomenal birds over, like these yolks are elusive, and really healthy.
They stay on top of their foxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, their vermin control. Like, I didn't see one fox.
No.
I know we were only there for what was it, 3 nights?
Yeah, but you would have, like, big expansive fields, man.
Oh, you'd
like,
spot them.
You can look across hundreds and hundreds of acres easily now, because there was no crop in the ground at this stage, or very little, a lot of stubble. So you would expect to see a fox, and we did a lot of driving through country roads and stuff, especially one running across the road from you.
No, nothing.
And to prove that point, to the damage that foxes do, and this really nailed it for me, was the hares.
Oh, I kept confused. Poor Chris, I had his hair broken.
See what?
Oh, there's a deer. No, that's a hare. I was like, you sure?
Because they like that when you're in the distance, a hare curled up in the distance, or sorry, a Chinese water deer curled up in the distance. Yeah. He can tuck himself in. You might just see the 2 little ears or the little head sticking up. So automatically, you're saying, oh, that's a Chinese water deer. And literally then the thing scooches off, and oh no, it's a hare. Sorry. So you're constantly checking back and forward. But in every field, and I mean this, in every field, there's a dozen hares.
Yeah, like I would have said, is it a herd? A herd of hares? I don't know what you call them. But between 5 and 10 in groups, moving around. I never seen that.
And the boys, they seen very few grey crows. Yeah. Seen a few magpies, but instantly the lads are the magpie, so that's going back to be, so they're hugely on top of their vermin, and I think that's probably why they have the number. Well, not probably, it is why they have the numbers they have.
Yeah.
Even on the Chinese side, their litters will be more inclined to be controlled by the vermin if there was bigger numbers, but there's not. So I think that's a sign of good management there, Then we came, where did we go back there? Oh yeah, we started to stay in, take it easy.
We got a Chinese.
Now, funny story, right? Tom gave us a number of a Chinese, a good one, locally and so on. And so I tried to ring the number, but I got through to, I'd say somebody in Wexford here, and the prefix was wrong. And And then so Tom said, here, I ring, and he put me on loudspeaker and handed it over to me. And the poor girl that answered the phone was obviously Chinese, but she's probably used to Southern Norfolk accent, which is probably difficult enough for a Chinese person to understand.
And then she gets you.
And then she gets me, yeah. So she's now trying to decipher what the fuck is this fella saying, because she's probably half used to. So anyway, I had to hand it back over to Tom. Tom did the order after a little bit of confusion, and I think we had another couple of bottles of wine.
Hit the hay, up again there. Like, we were up early every morning.
Just after 4 every morning.
Yeah.
No, I have to admit, I kind of slept on there about 20 that morning. But yeah, rock back up. I went back out with Tom the second morning, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
You went out with Chris. And Yanis went out with Ben. Yeah. Again, yeah. And this was the morning where Janusz got off to his start.
I can't tell his story, but his deer, it's definitely a gold medal.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say as good as mine now.
That was the back and forth. I think
we need to get that measured.
Yeah, we'll know shortly enough. Yeah. We'll know shortly enough.
Pay the taxidermy an extra 50 just to leave my teeth.
Yeah,
there.
exactly. And their teeth goes right back up to or close to their orbital bone, as far as I know. And they lose quite regularly. Lose their first tooth, or one or both of their teeth, or break them. Yeah. And funny enough, I think you probably confirmed this, when you're looking through them in the binos, after a while, you start to know, like, because they're difficult enough to try and spot where the tusks are.
Yeah.
But you kind of get to know by the indents, don't you, on the cheek?
I wasn't great at that myself.
Yeah.
And I have a decent set of binos, but I'm sure if you're doing it as long as them, you'd pick it up.
Yeah.
If you had a week maybe doing it, you'd start to see the difference.
Yeah. I think it was maybe last morning, I think I kind of got what they were, because I heard them talking about, you'll see the bottom jaw kind of just dinted, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and then, because they hold a little bit of fur underneath the chin as well. But my morning went, again, similar in that we came in actually from a different angle, going after that gold medal Chinese, and then dipped down to another field, and we were actually going from, it was getting actually late enough in the morning, because we pulled into one side where we'd seen one or two turn out to be females, and one male got up and run, but it was a good tip away, and he had spotted us long before we'd spotted him. And then we pulled down this country lane again, and with that, just Tom spotted it far before me. He said, that's something underneath that tree there, to the right hand side of the tree. Let's have a look. So pulled in, got out of Jeep, stalked in to 150 meters or 200 meters maybe with the binos. He said, yeah, I can't see. And there was like a little mound to the front of the tree, and he was standing right behind, to the right hand side of the tree, but there was a fucking branch of the hedge or something right at the line of where his mouth was. So neither of us could make out, did he have a tusk or not? And then at one stage I said, oh, I think I seen one. And then I didn't. I said, oh, maybe it's the branch. Tom said, I can't be sure. So again, we stalked in again, another couple of meters, probably to, I'd say, maybe 150 or so. Mm. And we just waited. And he wasn't moving, just would not fucking, he'd kind of look to his left or look behind him, then look back again straight at us. And anyway, took a slight step up towards the tree, and with that, both of us said, yeah, I see a tusk, yeah. And I saw a video, I said, I see a tusk, I take it. And he said, yeah. So clipped it, fell, walked over, and like your story, I think Tom had said about, I hope he has the two, and I didn't know until that stage that was a thing. And we walked up, and I just knew by his expression, fuck it. He knew instantly, Yeah. I had to edit that bit out of the video. One tooth was missing, but this was an old warrior, man. He was, what do they call it when their ears
are ripped, torn?
Yeah, there's a name on it. Yeah. But he had 4 beams or 4, something like that, 3 or 4. But he was in slices, man. And he was an old, good animal to take out. But he was an old one. And missing one of his teeth. Which I was disappointed at the time because it would have been.
That's unique as well.
Exactly, yeah.
You have to get what you're like. For instance, I went out that evening, and there was a muntjac. That's what I was chasing then, obviously, because I got me Chinese.
Yeah.
I didn't want to keep shooting Chinese, so I was chasing a muntjac, and it was just dark, and one had come out. We couldn't make out if it was a buck or not, but I was pretty sure. Me know nothing about muntjacs.
Yeah,
This
that looks like a book.
I was trying to convince myself, and Chris said, "Sure, if you're happy enough, shoot, safe backstop." So I took a shot, hit it, good shot, went down where it was, went over. It was a doe.
Yeah,
but that didn't go to waste because we ate it.
We did.
It
Now,
was delicious.
Is that the best deer you've ever tasted?
Yes.
Without a doubt. Yeah, I was the same.
Like now, I can't say for definite because I didn't taste the Chinese, but it's the nicest out of Sika, Red, Fallow, and Muntjac.
Yeah.
For me, just for me, that was by far the nicest.
And it would, like, I'd find if there is a nicer deer, man, then it must be delicious. That's all I can say, because it was delicious.
Yeah.
And similar to that, my story went that evening. That you drew the female that time, and similar to that, this was last night. We were pulling up to a small field. There was a bit of a wood on the side of it, and there was like a tram line for a tractor into the field, and there was kind of a bit of graze on another forestry on the left hand side. And Tom got all excited, so I got excited. He said, "There's a couple there. I can see them on the edge of the wood. They're making a way across." He said, "They normally make their way across here, one wood to the other." He said, "But you're going to have to be quick." So up the sticks, onto the thing, and again I had me hood up, and it was bitter cold that evening. Hood up and gloves on and stuff like that. And my hearing, as everyone probably will attest, is not great now. Probably from shooting with no ear protection and so on. But anyway, what I heard was buck and shoot, and what Tom had said, obviously he was in just literally off the binos. I had the scope, and he said, can you see him? And I said, yeah. And I had buck and shoot, and I just pinged right where it stood.
What did he actually say?
So what he said was, if you can see its head and it's a buck, shoot.
Yeah.
Buck,
shoot. That's all you do.
Shoot. So yeah. Anyway, it happened to be, but again, it did not go to waste. No. We made
and fair play to the lads for showing us
absolutely
and helping us cut them up and the best cuts and
supreme. The little back straps and another little bright, but my God, man, it's like I don't know what.
Like I pan fried my one, and when I was cutting it, it was like it was pulled pork. It was coming.
That's
apart.
the way it was, wasn't it? Just falling apart.
Yeah, it was very, very nice.
And you actually left the silver skin on yours, right?
I left it, yeah.
Which was even, I was there like we didn't have great kitchen implement. We had a blunt enough now knife, but I was taking more. I spent 20 minutes taking fucking a bit of silver skin off. Yeah, but it made no difference.
No.
It was just melt in your mouth. A little bit of bap. Oh, I'm salivating there. Bap, and we toasted a bap. You had a little bit of burger sauce or something on yours, did you?
Burger sauce, fried onions.
Fried onions.
Which
the boys
and that and the boys, yeah, they got them for us.
Yeah,
and that was it. It was lovely.
Oh, man. To the point where, man, we had said on our next trip we'd take a Munty early and use it to make some of the food. Yeah. I know it's nice coming in the evening time and hipping down, which it is nice, but I'd recommend anyone to try it. That is an untapped resource, man. And there's so many of them. They're elusive little
I
factors.
just need to get them into Ireland.
I know.
If anyone knows how to get them into Ireland.
Or anyone knows where they are in Ireland,
Because they're on the bag return.
They are,
You showed me.
Yeah. So they're there somewhere. So somebody's minding them. But if anyone wants to give us a little bit of meat, we were there. Can we vacuum pack this and get this back in? It's gorgeous, man. It's just gorgeous. But and Jan got on his book that evening.
That evening. He actually shot before because he hadn't shot anything at that stage. I can't remember rightly the sequence it went, but I remember it was me and Jan went out together, and I said, "No, Jan, you go because you haven't shot anything yet."
That's right. He shot his Muntjac that evening.
Yes. So it was still bright out. This Muntjac came out. It was actually perfect the way it worked out. We stalked around the edge of the forest, and the forest like dog leg back, so that gave us cover. We just broke the edge of the forest. It was a really nice book, and Jan shot it. I think it was 170 yards. Dropped on the spot, no bother. Again, 250.
Yeah.
Yeah. He got another night. He actually got 2 medals.
2 medals. The lads think that's a bronze, minimum bronze.
Monty and a gold Chinese. So he had a great time.
Yeah, so he got his bronze Monty that evening.
Yeah.
The following morning, then he switched guide then to Tom. Yes, to Tom, and they went after the gold medal that we had seen up on the other.
Bastard.
Yeah.
But yeah,
clever enough. Get up. He says, "Tom, I have my Muntjac. I want my Chinese." You know. So yeah, he went and got his Chinese.
But if you just think about it, so 3 of us went over. We all shot the 2 species that we were after.
Yeah.
And there's some medals in there.
Yeah.
You won't get that.
I think we count 9 animals between the 3 of us. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. 9 or 10, I can't remember. It was them kind of numbers anyway. So that's phenomenal. Like and
you could have shot more.
Oh, like
if you said, "I'll take a couple of cull animals," you could have.
Away you went. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was just chasing.
Then we switched. I think the last morning. I think we went out. I went with Chris.
I went with Tom.
It's the second last morning. I went with Chris.
Yeah.
You went with Tom.
Yeah.
Because the guys kind of depend on who wanted what. We kind of switched. So I was obviously after a Monty at this stage. So I went back down to the area where you and Yanis were shooting, where Yanis shot his Monty. And we dipped in and checked that field, and there was no joy there. There was a couple moving, actually. There's a big wood the whole way around it, isn't it? It's weird. There's like trees all the way around it. And there's a road on the back of it. So there's a hill kind of in the middle. So you have to kind of come in, depending on where the animals come out, you have to kind of attack it from a different angle. But it was a couple kind of moving in the woods. But like that, they never stopped, and they're gone. Never come out. And Chris, I kind of thought by Chris, and he said to me afterwards, should we just go down and check? There's they call it, I think there's a swamp, is it? Or they have a big lake, and then there's like a swampy, marshy area at the back of it. Good man, have another vape there. So you go in, and long kind of an entrance into this place, and then it opens up a small bit of a wood around this. And we had gone down to the gun shop with Tom and Chris the previous day. Yeah. Isn't that correct? And they picked up these little squeakers, like a little mouse squeaker.
Yeah, to call them in. Yeah.
And we thought...
Because they were barking.
No, I hadn't heard them barking.
Yeah.
You had heard them, but I was there barking. They can't be. Now, as the trip went on, I heard what you were talking about, but this little squeaker was... But even females barked, did they?
Females barked as well, yeah.
Yeah. So this squeaker, I don't know what way this sort of magic this thing works, but it's like a little mouse squeaker.
I think that's the mating call.
Is it?
Yeah, I think the squeak is the mating call from the female, from the doe.
So the boys had these 3, and with that, we had walked in, and we're heading to the right-hand side of the lake to check there's a field to the right-hand side, and just swung around, and I seen just something at the corner of my eye just darting. There was like a heavy kind of bush cover, like the hawthorn and berries and stuff, that kind of, what do you call it? I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, all kind of brush. And I said, and with that, Chris said, I think I seen that as well. So we kind of diverted our attention over to the left-hand side. And there was a kind of a stream in between us, and there was a walkway over further down, but the stream was separating our 2 fields. And he said, oh, it's female. So he was up at the binos looking through, could see it. He said, I'll just try to give it a squeak. With that, the females started coming running.
Yeah.
and stood maybe 60, 70 meters away from us and just stood kind of nosing. Now we were stood still, so it was kind of like the head was going to the side. What the fuck? Where was that coming from? Gave another squeak. She came over and we found out there was actually a tree which we were using that was lying growing across the river that they were using to skip across. So she was probably heading for that. But with that, King Charles behind him came fucking running out. Who was taking my lady, or who wants a bit of loving. So out he comes charging, and where he came out of the little wood wasn't a safe shot. So I was saying to Chris, where the fuck is he going to go? He says he's going to come over that hill and go to the right after where she's going. But he said you won't have long because you only have a safe shot between the mound and where there was a tree. So you only have about maybe 15 meters, you know. So he said as soon as he breaks that hill and comes back to the far side, that's your only safe shot there, you know. So with that, up he comes, sits on top of the hill, kind of has a look around, looks straight over us, but wasn't really highly interested, and started to scurry down to the right. And Chris just gave him one more squeak, and he just looked back and pinged him right through the...
I think Chris was shooting for you.
Not the Tom. He never took one step. But like that, the treble 250, lovely little round as well.
Yeah.
You had shot them.
Yeah.
Long
I
time
had
ago.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Remington 700 and 250. But so that's how you got on. Then I went out with Tom. Like that, seen a couple of Muntjac, all females. He started using the squeaker, and one started barking from the wood. I was like, oh, here we go. So the little lad,
Fecker.
yeah, only came as far as the forestry line, but not enough to make him out. But he was barking. I could pick him up, but couldn't see his head. So I said, no, look, leave it. He went back in.
Yeah.
I would have stayed there watching until I seen the head, but he went back in, so I didn't take a shot at him. So we left there and went. We were actually driving back, and we spotted the Chinese, and we weren't going to shoot. He said we'll go down, if there's nothing else we'll spin back and have a look at it, but we bumped into a farmer. So then Tom said, right, we may go back and see if we can get this for the farmer.
So this was a little bit of a test as well now, because
Tom was putting me under a bit of pressure.
He was putting you under a bit of pressure. So give a bit of context. On the last podcast, you just mentioned, you know,
I said I'd be comfortable
shooting 300,
yeah, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Like,
so you ranged into this deer.
So we drove back up with the Jeep, and Tom goes, do you want to stalk in closer, or do you want to shoot from here? And I said, how far is it? 300. And he goes, should I listen to the last podcast? Sure, it's no bother to you, 300. Now, you have to remember, right? I started making up excuses straight away. So that's with my own gear. And look, there's a bit of a wind out, just all sorts. But he's smiling at me. And I went, all right. Now, Chinese water there, as you said, are small. This thing is sitting down.
Yeah.
So when they're sitting down, like, they're less again.
Yeah.
So I said, right, I'll give it a shot. I couldn't make out if it was a buck or not. So he said, I'll tell you what, I'll make a bet with you. If it's a doe and you hit it, there's no charge. Okay, Tom, I'll take that all day. So I was asking questions. So what kind of 270? All right, what's a zero for? It's an inch and a half high at 100 meters.
Yeah.
So give us a look at the box of ammo. So I was looking at the box of ammo. Right.
Fair drop.
Trying to work it out in my head. So I held over, pulled the trigger. I had said that's a hit, but he didn't see it yet until it rolled over.
Yeah.
As soon as it rolled over, he was like, in fairness, now that's not a bad shot. Fixed powered scope.
Yeah, fixed powered scope. And after that, actually, the phone call came through. So that was in your real time. In my real time, a phone call came through, and there was what distance? You know, so this conversation, Tom had it rang Chris to tell him about the shot.
Yeah.
So he
was testing me.
Yeah,
he was testing me.
I was there, telling Chris that no way is it 300, man. That 200. So yeah, no, in fairness, the word got around. It was a good shot.
Yeah,
it was a good shot.
It was more jammy than good, but I'll take it.
And that's an interesting point as well. So most of the boys over there, 0 inch high, at 100. Isn't that correct?
Yeah.
Well,
because
the guys that we were talking.
yeah, they don't seem to, again, the lads that we were with, don't seem to dial. And I understand why.
Yeah, you've no
For a
fruits
number of
yeah.
reasons. If they're handing their rifle to a client, there's no messing. That's why Tom uses a fixed power scope.
Yeah.
So the client has nothing to fiddle around with.
Yeah.
And then there's no dialing them.
And of course, on top of that, then these guys do a huge amount of vermin control. So
Yeah.
when you're out at night time, dialing is not really
No.
what you want to be doing. So like that, they know inch high at 100, they know at 200, their holdover put at the top of his head,
Yeah.
you know, so they have it down to a T. And that's, I suppose, that's one of the major differences. Well, not from here and there, but definitely from mine and your setup to some of the lads.
No,
there.
we used to shoot like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And it has its place.
Yeah. I think the good thing, what I realise as well, both. I think you definitely, especially when you have the time, we're still relatively young, but to experience both, because lots of people say, "Oh, if you're a deer hunter," threw up a bit of contention. I think on the podcast, one of the pages, I think where I was dialing. Yeah, and you should be able to dial it. But here's my thing, right? And this is not to create controversy, but
do it.
we're there's none of us shooting with an old rifle and iron sights, so we're all being assisted by scopes, by ammunition now that are, yeah, exactly. So if we're talking about fair game, we're shooting with a fucking a rifle generally that'll kill something at 500 or 600 meters, so, and we're also dealing with scopes that can
See
do
your
that.
soul.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we already have the advantage, there's nobody more fair than someone else, right?
No, I seen some of those comments, right?
Yeah.
And while I understand their premise, a lot of the skill is in stalking in close to the animal and taking an ethical shot. But the landscape will dictate how close you can get to that animal. So if you want something for your freezer, or you're doing control for a farmer, and you can't bridge that gap, let's say call it 300 meters between a forestry brocket and an open field, wouldn't it be nice to have the skill set and be comfortable to take an ethical shot?
Yeah, of course.
That's all you were saying. Dialing or fixed.
Now, I would not recommend that the deer stalker that's just got his license and has just got his rifle and so on would take a shot out to 400 or 400 meters. No. That's not what we're saying. You take my situation. So anyone who's followed the podcast says, I started with my 6.5 55 with a fixed scope, and that was perfect. That worked well. Yeah. Great. But when you get, and no more than the sticks, when you get comfortable with that setup, and when you're able to take ethically placed shots, and all that kind of stuff is kind of in the background, and you've worked out all the flinchy stuff. Yeah.
So there's what people don't understand. There's internal ballistics, external ballistics, and then terminal ballistics. And a lot of people overlook the terminal ballistics. So even if you're shooting at 200 meters, right? And that's not too far, it's not too close.
Yeah.
Right? But if you don't have the right bullet construction, something that opens at the muzzle velocity that it's hitting the animal at 200 meters, you're just going to pencil the animal. It's going to run off anyway. You could do that at 100 meters.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to take. People that just, oh no, I only do this. You have to be open to learn everything.
Everything, yeah. And that's a whole, and I think that's something from my point of view, since I've started the podcast, probably how I've learned, so I've gone from fixed scope to dialing in. Also then, with some of the ballistic stuff, which I want to learn more about. That's a whole different, and you could you're trying to learn it all at the one time. So I'm trying to learn new animals, stalking new ground, using different equipment, looking at different, I shot one round in my life, when I started 6.5 55, I'm now shooting 6.5 Creedmoor. I've shot 270, 308, 30-06, 22 or treble 250, 22, so 223, 243.
But it's mad. Like you just asked dialing or fixed. If you ask best caliber, that always throws up fucking murder.
You'll hear in similar to that way. Like you'll have lads who will you nearly almost cannot shoot with that caliber. That's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like today, but it's like, I have to admit, man, right? I was shooting with 270 over there, and I've shot 270 before, and I'm really, really loving that round, you know.
Yeah.
And if I had probably me time back, if I could get my gun and me 270, I'd be happy as a pig in powder, you know. So, but like now, that's not to say I'm like my rifle. Every gun will the muzzle velocity and so on. There's very little in between both of them.
No,
but just the I suppose the last couple of times it's very like Tom's rifle. Now there was there was a big suppressor on that. I found it was very smooth, no kick. The round itself, as Ben probably described it best, you know, the Creedmoor is almost literally too surgical, you know. Do you know what I'm saying?
But that's what it was invented for.
Exactly. But I understand that now. Whereas if you would have said to me when I was shooting me 6.5, that would have went, what is he talking about? You know, the comes out and that slow arc or curve, he knows, you know, he aims that high at 200 meters is going to drop into the animal, you know, and I can kind of understand that now, you know.
Yeah. Look, all the major deer calibers will drop there.
Yeah.
If your shot selection is correct, you're in the right distance, that you're putting enough kinetic energy on the animal, and your bullet selection opens at that distance.
Yeah.
They're the important things. They're all capable.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the truth.
I think there was one thing today where it was showing up. It was an animal. It was a roe deer actually in England, and it was in poor nick. I think some of the younger deers this time of the year, you've young crops shooting out of the ground, and they go and they gorge and they get like a scurvy, you know. So they lose huge amount of condition and they get the runs and all kinds of stuff. And some of them struggle, and a lot of people come across them and they're asking, what should we do with this ethically and so on. And lads are saying, oh well, I can't get in close enough with the rifle because he's lying down, and if I get in too close, do you know what I mean, with the high powered rifle, you know, all this kind of jazz. And somebody was saying, oh, if you can get, you know, a shotgun, you know, and they were saying about this, you know, the ethics of it. And your man was saying, he's right, you know, if the muzzle of a shotgun is put close enough to, do you know that type of way?
Oh yeah.
And I think that I'm not saying that's, but I'm just making the point that the distance and that all plays a part.
How did we get on this tangent?
I don't know.
Someone annoyed you about clicks.
Oh yeah, it was you dialing in 3 or not dialing in for 300. Yeah. But yeah, that I think that threw up a couple of nice questions and like that. Fair play to you for the shot is what I was trying to say there.
It was sort of luck now.
I'd love to fucking say it was luck, man, but it would nothing would
you would have loved me if I missed.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't now. I wouldn't be like that now.
How did you get on our this morning?
The penultimate day. That evening, what was I going after? Oh yes, I took that Muntjac, and then I went back out, I think, with Chris again that evening, back to a similar spot. And again, a couple of females on boat.
Yeah.
And that was my, but I was kind of happy enough. We were rounding off the day with a hunt. Yeah. You went back again?
I went back out this morning because I haven't shot a Muntjac buck, and Chris brought me out and he tried his level best.
Yes.
And we think it was a buck. No, we've seen lots, but it's in the bracken. Like, they're constantly moving to make out what you're actually shooting at. Like, what male or female. And I could have taken females.
Yeah.
One stood there barking. Chris was again using the squeaker, and it came out, what? How close would that have been? 70 yards?
Yeah, yeah.
Could have been closer. In the woods. And stood there barking for 5 minutes. But no, I didn't take it. And I didn't see a buck to shoot at.
Yeah, and that was like that. We could see them. They were literally scurrying around the right hand side and making. They're built for that type of cover, aren't they? That kind of marshy, woody, brushy land. I was doing trying to get some filming done. I think was the so I was there like, oh, when that female came out from. Remember, she came out from the kind of right hand side of the heading for that, and I said, oh, here we go. But like. I'd set up me camera and all, and I said, oh, he's going to nail this when she comes. And like that, start to bark back at the thing.
This week, yeah.
And that was the first time I'd heard that. So every time he squeaked, "Roar," this little, I thought was phenomenal. Do you know?
Look, from start, Giannis, by the way, didn't go out that morning.
No, Jan stayed in bed.
Lazy shite, stayed in bed.
No, but sure, why would I go out? I got my book.
Yeah.
He was right. We were fucking wrecked.
So
Wrecked.
now we have to pack up and head for the airport.
Head for the airport. And here's the question. Would you do it again?
100%.
Yeah.
Like, to the point of I was questioning everything, because the last time I talked to you, I was mad to go to South Africa. And now I'm thinking, no, I'm coming back here, do a pheasant shoot, maybe a goose shoot and a stalk.
Yeah.
I'd read like a Muntjac book.
And the guys can put together, we're actually talking just there this morning about putting together, you know, maybe going out for a goose in the morning, doing a pheasant drive or a rough day on the pheasant and partridge.
Yeah.
And then an evening shooting on the deer. Now I know that's heavy going. Or a mixture of both over 2 or 3 days. And they can do that. They'll mix and match. So if you want a 100 bird driven, if you want a 200 bird driven, if you have 2 or 3 lads and you want to jump in, and they'll put you in a team of 10, there's other 10, they'll make up the numbers.
And it's not, right, so for us, anyone in Ireland, it's what, 50 odd minutes, 55 minutes of a flight?
Yeah.
It's grand. Everyone speaks the same language.
Yeah.
So that barrier isn't there.
Apart from the Chinese, if you want to order Chinese.
If you want to
you
order
might have to-
Chinese, get a local to do it.
Yeah.
Or nab a Chinese. And then the price, it's very reasonably priced.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's, if you plan it early enough, like we got good flights, we rented a car.
Yeah.
It's an hour and 20 minutes from Stansted down. So you're down there in no time. You have your accommodation set up and straight out. And
Accommodations, like, I couldn't sing their praises highly enough.
no, it was just phenomenal. Ultra professional, really fucking taken care of, to the point where every morning the lads, all the stalkers, used to come back and we used to have coffee and a bit of crack. You know, it was one good group of lads, you know, I have to say.
And I offered them, so did you, because they're supposed to come over in October, that we'd bring them out. And I wouldn't do that unless I thought they were really...
You definitely wouldn't do that, man. No. You'd be all kinds of tetchy. Yeah. So, and these are, I think they're on our level, you know, they're great. So if anyone does want to tip down there, give us a shout. We'll put you in contact. Because you can't we can't sing their praises highly enough. Without further ado, I suppose, we have to get back. We have a flight to catch. And we have to try and start planning for our next one. Isn't that right, Robert?
That's right.
We've hungry now in September. Yeah.
Hungry in September, and then we'll see.
Back over here.
I have to get the kitchen commander's approval to come back over to the UK.
And you have your Muntjac to get.
Yes.
Yeah. So, are you happy enough with that?
Happy enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for joining me again. It's great to be talking to somebody rather than that wall over there. So, thank you, man.
Thanks.
Enjoy that.